have taken the time to do a professional development in at the very beginning of the summer like this. I'm hoping that a lot more people will be able to watch the videos, and I completely understand uh, why a lot of people would be hoping to be able to do it on their own time and to get the information that they need. But it's incredibly impressive to see that you four are actually participating in the online version. So I would love to hear from you. If you have any questions, I have the chat open. If you want to send me a chat, or if you want to talk directly, I would love to hear from you as we go through the presentation today. Some of the questions that I would like to start with, how are you feeling about everything so far? What are you the most concerned about? And what are you the most excited about? So if you want to answer me that in the chat, anything going forward, that would be awesome. And I will touch base and try to stay up on the chat as we move forward. But I know it's been a very challenging year, and I would love to hear from you as to some of the things, how you're feeling so far, and kind of some of the things that you're a little concerned about and what you're most excited about. So let me know if you get a chance going forward. My name is Rusty May. I am a school counselor by trade. I have been a school counselor for 20 years. And 8 years ago, I met my wife, Felipa, in Spain, and we got married. And now we have two young ones, Charlie, who is turning 7 next week, and Maddie, who is turning 6 in September. Obviously, that's an amazing experience for an older father like myself, but it's also been an amazing experience as a school counselor and as somebody that works with teachers on a daily basis, because it really does put into perspective the kinds of things that I talk about, the things that I encourage and recommend. And that's what I will be doing today is making recommendations, giving you some ideas, things that you can incorporate into your practice, maybe hopefully pick up one or two things that you can add to what you're already doing, to help you connect more effectively with all the kids in your care. And I think for all of us, we realize that as educators, that connection piece, that relationship piece is critical to everything we do. And now having my own two kids, it's really made it apparent. A lot of for the first 14 or 15 years of my work, I was kind of speaking about things that I wasn't as connected to in terms of having children and working, because I didn't work in the classroom as much as I worked in professional development and in a program that I'll share with you as we go forward. But the work that you do in the classroom every day is all about connection. And so that's what we're here to talk about today. I said I met my wife in Spain, and we actually currently live in Portugal, which when she told me she lived in Portugal, I had no idea where it was. So I am going to share a map with you to show you. I'm sure you all know where it is, but I didn't know. And we currently live in Portugal. We moved here in 2019, right just before the pandemic really hit. And my wife is an only child, and her parents are 85 and 84. So when we met and got married, we told them that we would have our children in the United States, and then we would move over here to be with them and to participate in their lives for as much period of time as we can. I have, my family back in the United States. I have 3 brothers and a sister who live all around the United States. And my father and his wife, my mom, passed away 15 years ago. But my dad and his current wife are still around, and we get a chance to talk to them all the time on Zoom and be able to stay connected, which is really, really nice. But we have chosen to raise our family here in Portugal. So that's where we are right now. And that's where I'm talking to you from. And thank you again so much for being here tonight. One of the things that I want to go into, we're going to go into a lot of stuff today, talking about character, developing character. How do we do it? What's it all about? But one of the things that I think is really important as we go forward and as we talk about this is to look at some of the new challenges that we're facing. I think the pandemic exacerbated a lot of what we were dealing with, but a lot of this has been going on for the past 10 years, not just with teachers, but also with students. And the things that we're going to be talking about today are issues that as I said, we're exacerbated by the pandemic, but that we're going on, and we're seeing that some significant challenges that are in front of us in terms of the job that you've chosen, and also in the students who are coming to you on a daily basis, and kind of where they're coming from, and also kind of the way that they're looking to us for support, which I think has changed significantly as well. But as for teachers, and this being in Portugal now, I do work in the United Kingdom. I work in the EAU. I also do some work in Australia and Canada, and so I have some opportunities to speak with teachers from a global perspective on a regular basis. And really, the challenges that we're facing in the United States are similar to challenges that people are facing in many other parts of the world as well. And I think what's happening is that some of the ideas about public education specifically have changed in terms of what our job is and what we're expected to do. And that has made it significantly more challenging. And the pandemic obviously made that even more significant, because you were asked to do so many amazing things in such a short period of time, and you rose to the occasion, unlike anything that I've ever seen in my 20 years of education. And my research shows me that nothing like this has happened in the history of public education, going back to, I guess, in the early 1900s, when we did have some significant problems around that. But obviously the public education system at the time wasn't as complex and as necessary as it is today. And so, again, hats off for the work that you do. I feel very humbled to have an opportunity to speak with you, and to also to have a chance to work with teachers every single day who are doing the amazing work that you do. But there are increased demands, and it's important that we think about that when we are thinking about the idea of character development, because everything that I'm going to talk about today starts with you. It starts with how you take care of yourself first and foremost, and then how you prioritize and how you position and posture yourself in the classroom. And that's really where I think the majority of the character education that our children are learning is coming from. It's coming directly from us as educators and as significant adults in the lives of these children. I used to joke that it was when I got done with my master's program, spending a lot of money and 2.5 years of education to become a counselor. I went into schools all around the district that I was working in, and it became apparent to me that most counseling was done with posters on the wall. And you'd see posters up, be the best you can be, have a great day, turn that frown upside down, and all these wonderful sayings that people had. But most of what I, assumed was the counseling perspective, at least for the majority of the students who weren't connected to a counselor on a weekly basis, had to do with putting posters on the wall. And that was really the beginning of my desire to work more directly with teachers in terms of helping them to understand that everything that they do and everything that they say, those are the mirrors, those are the ideas that we're teaching to the children. And any kind of a program, whether it's a wonderful program like Second Step or any of the great ones that are out there, those programs are fantastic, and I'm sure they provide some positive things for the students. And if they're presented in an effective way, obviously the children can learn some stuff from that. But more than anything else, they're watching. They're watching us as educators. They're watching us as a school staff. They're watching their peers, and all of that basically is what we're going to be talking about today. When it comes to students, it's important to understand that this is not just a pandemic related situation, but the underlying health issues that we've seen over the past 10 years, especially in terms of the more significant challenges that we're facing in mental health conditions, including suicidal ideation and suicide attempts, have been rising steadily for the past 10 years. And so what we're seeing is we are seeing, for whatever reason, and I have a number of ideas in my head, but we are seeing a significant challenge to young people that are coming into our classrooms, and those challenges are coming from mainly from outside of the classrooms. They may be bringing the problems in with them, and that could be leading to some other problems that exist in the schools or in the classrooms. But the overwhelming majority of the problems that these kids are coming to us with are coming from outside of the classroom. And those problems are significant, and they're continuing. And the pandemic, as I said before, has created situations that are even more significant. And we're going to talk about that. And it's something that educators that I talk to and that I work with, I'm talking about constantly, thinking about if you remember 2008, we did not really see the real fallout from the financial crisis of 2008 until around 2012 or 2013. I think a similar thing is going to happen with the mental health fallout from the pandemic, in terms of our kids are going to start to realize some of the challenges, and we're going to start to have to work our way through this. So as we're 2 years into that particular challenge, I think there's more to come, and we just need to be aware of it. It's not something that, we can just take a step back and acknowledge that it's there and be aware of it when we're working with our children, in terms of developing character, but also in connecting with them and connecting and developing healthy relationships, which again is going to be the primary driver of what we're going to talk about here today. I want to talk a little bit about the pandemic and what I'm seeing in my work with it. I do online education. I do online counseling with a number of small schools around the United States that don't have access to counselors. And so I'm in classrooms sometimes weekly, a lot of times monthly, to talk to young people and to have access to them. And a lot of what I'm seeing in those small situations, oftentimes very connected communities that really were not as impacted as some of the larger cities were by the pandemic. We're still seeing this cycle of grief playing out. And it's important not just for you to understand it, but to be aware of it, not only for the students that you're going to be working with next year, but also for yourself. And if you have your own children at home, to kind of look at it and think to yourself kind of where they are in the process, because we've all experienced grief based on the pandemic. And the kids that are coming to us, the kids in our care, have experienced it as well. And so it's really important that we're just aware of it, something to keep in mind in terms of when we're dealing with situations. And again, this whole conversation today is about connection. Connection is about relationship. This is a key part of connecting with kids right now, is understanding where they are in the process of dealing with grief. They may have lost someone to the pandemic. Their relationship, the parents' relationship may have been affected. Jobs may have been lost. There could be situations that are still ongoing. And even though they may not be wearing masks or being concerned about those things, there's still the fallout from it can still be affecting them. And education is, for us, information is education. And so as much information as we can get can help us to connect more effectively with every child in our care. If anybody wants this at the end, a simple email to me. I will send you this slide presentation in a PDF format so you can look it over. And you can have it for your own use. So don't worry about it right now. You can just take a look at it as we're going forward, but I'm happy to send it to you when we're finished as well. If you have any questions going forward, please contact me in the chat, or if you want to just raise a hand. I think I can see that as we're sharing a screen, but I would love to hear from you. So there's 4 of us here, and I know you have some great feedback as well. So if you have any comments or questions, please just jump right in. You will not be bothering me whatsoever. Teacher anxiety, like I said, information is going to help us through this process, finding out what may be happening when we get back to school. Everything that I'm hearing right now, from the shortage on substitute teachers to the lack of professional development opportunities, to the challenges associated with how parents are responding to the pandemic and the post-pandemic situation. We are finding a number of teachers who are deciding to leave the profession, but we're also finding that a number of teachers who are staying may be being overwhelmed by it in terms of how it's affecting them. And it's important that just, again, that we're aware of it, that we can pay attention to it. And this slide gives us some ideas that we might be seeing in our colleagues and our coworkers, or maybe even in ourselves. I mean, I noticed last summer that I thought that I was handling the pandemic very well, being in a foreign country. I kind of relished the fact that I didn't have to go out and worry about language differences, and couldn't really do much of anything. I just had my family around me and so forth. And it seemed to me like that was kind of a good situation, a soft landing for someone moving to a foreign country. But I realized last summer that I really wasn't handling it very well, and that I did have some pretty significant challenges that were going on with me, and I was getting burnout in terms of dealing with it. I was trying to stay connected to teachers and students. I was hearing a lot of stuff. And I really had to take a step back and get some help, and I did, and I'm very happy that I did. But oftentimes, as someone who talks about this stuff all the time, it's easy to forget yourself in the process, and I hope that that's not the case. Rachel, thank you for your comment. I think right now that all of us, and that's what I said about the four of you being here today to share in this presentation with me. It's so amazing. I would think that most teachers would just want some time to relax and enjoy themselves this summer. And for you guys to be here is just incredible. But hopefully we can get some more information out there. We can begin to help people to understand the importance of self-care, and also the importance of lowering the bar a little bit. I'm not sure whether or not that's in this slide presentation, but it's one of the things that I talk in my professional development trainings all the time to teachers about, is lowering the bar, because teachers mostly are just amazingly caring and conscientious individuals, and they give so much of themselves and expect so much of themselves. And oftentimes that's the thing that starts to create what we're seeing in that picture right now. So again, this is informational, but it's something that we can look at in terms of what we're dealing with, both as a staff and also seeing what's happening to our kids. If we're in a situation, we're going to talk later about children's anxiety and the students and what they're bringing to the classroom, and unsettled environments outside of our classroom can cause problems inside of our classroom, whether the kid's getting pulled out and is working with a specialist, or you're in a high school situation or junior high situation where they're switching classes. Students who are dealing with anxiety, who are dealing with some of the trauma pre-pandemic or because of the pandemic, maybe getting triggered in other classroom situations. And so it's important for us to know that, again, as a way of just being able to be better connectors. And that's what we really want to talk about. For the educator, and this is, I guess probably as someone who's traveled most of my career, probably since my early, middle to late 30s, it's really interesting to me that stupid part of the presentation when they do the safety check. I've heard it so many times, it doesn't really resonate with me. But there's always that one moment where they tell you about taking care of yourself first. I think that's with the air mask, but in this situation, we're talking about fastening your own seatbelt and taking care of yourself first and foremost. And obviously, there's the challenge for so many of us is that we deal with such a large population of children, whether it's 30 to 35 in an individual classroom, or if we have switching classrooms upwards of 120 to 150 kids a day that we're dealing with, or for administrators even more than that. How important it is for us to take care of ourselves. And again, as I said, if we're going to be teaching character, we're going to need to be doing the things that we're expecting of our kids. And so the way that we do that, how we handle ourselves, how we manage ourselves, is going to pay dividends in our ability to handle challenging situations when they come up in the classroom. So all of these things are important. And there are things that we could spend an entire presentation on. We're talking about the information that we have right here in front of us. But part of the website that I'm going to share with you later, I have videos that I create every week. It's called the Mental Health Minute, and they're just minute-long videos that I'll share with you later that I created especially for teachers. And there's stuff that you can access anytime you want. It's all free on the website for you to look at. Another thing that's really important is that we're processing our own feelings about what's going on, maybe feelings in our own life about stuff that we're dealing with. And it may be processing our feelings in terms of dealing with the young people in our care. I don't know if any of you are still or will still be doing some distance education next year, but a lot of teachers that I worked with over the past couple years really had a hard time getting a direct view into the lives of their children through their Zoom classrooms. Having a camera into the children's lives and seeing some of the places where they come from and some of the chaos that exists in their lives, no fault of their own. Obviously, sometimes, just a challenging situation based on life. But having a window into that became very, very challenging for a lot of teachers. And we had to talk a lot about processing our feelings and being able to really notice what was going on with them and some of the things that they could do in terms of handling their own situation and preparing themselves as they went into their day. And one of the most important things that I can offer to you in something that I started to practice and resumed to practice after realizing that I was getting stuck was getting up a little bit earlier than my kids, because I'm usually the first one up in the morning, but I got up a little bit earlier so that I had, a good 45 minutes to an hour in the morning to myself where I could do my own thing, whether it's just, sit down and take a few minutes to myself or get cleaned up or start breakfast or start lunch or whatever it happened to be. It was important for me to take some time for myself as I started the day. And I encourage people to do that as well. There's a lot of other ideas on here that I'm sure that again, we could spend a whole 15 or 20 minutes on these things. But media is another thing, how much media that you are taking in on a daily basis, regardless of what the sources are. Obviously, media is trying to get information out there, but they're also looking for the information that's going to draw the most eyes. And so oftentimes it's information that is the most unsettling. So whether it's with people or with media or with other things like that, we need to set boundaries and we need to take care of ourselves and process what's happening with us as we continue to work through this, even though, as I said, we're hopeful that the major waves of what have happened, the pandemic wise, are over as we move forward. When it comes to student anxiety, one of the things that we're noticing as the kids come back into the classroom after the challenges that they faced, their challenging social skills. A lot of the young people that we were probably had an eye on before the pandemic, we noticed that they came back and they probably weren't, their social skills weren't at the top of as honed in as they might have liked them to be before the pandemic. And now they're out of practice. Fear of failure. We're seeing that a lot with the kids who are super overachievers, kids losing friends, anxiety about the things that are happening. This is a number of things. And again, informational stuff that you can use for the connective purposes in terms of knowing more about your children. But these are some of the things that are going through their minds right now, and finding out, or at least doing some things, some of the practices that we're going to talk about later in there here, some daily things. I am going to give you some tools that you can use immediately, but either talking to your students every day or getting them into a conversation or having them write about a prompt that is feeling based is a really good way to stay connected with your kids and find out what's going on with them. Because even though, like I said, the masks may be gone, that doesn't mean that the feelings are. So it's good that we stay with that. They're also dealing with grief, as I talked about earlier, whether it's the loss of a family member or someone who's been affected by it, either by their job or the long-term symptoms. We have seen racism based on this situation, especially in the Asian community, and bullying and peer pressure, mask wearing, not mask wearing, wanting to wear a mask, but not doing it, kids making fun of other kids. And then I also, at least what I'm seeing here in Portugal more than anything else, is I'm seeing a group of young people, particularly young females between the ages of 12 and about 15. We have a middle school right across the street from the apartment that we live in, are still wearing their masks, even though it's not required of them. And I get, and that this is when they're outside in the park area that's there and so forth. And I get the sense there's some hiding going on, because I can remember being that age and being a little bit uncomfortable with the way I looked, or if I had a blemish, or if something wasn't particular. And so this mask wearing thing, I think, is something that is still going to, it's going to have long lasting effects in terms of how it affects the children that we're dealing with right now. How can we help them deal with the anxiety? One way is to be aware of it. We'll see that, we'll notice it. And this is a really good slide for talking about how you'll notice some of the anxiety in class. As you look through these, you'll probably, yeah, I've got that, complaints. The kid who always wants to go to the nurse's office. Maybe it's not that they're trying to get out of class. Maybe they have anxiety issues. The struggles with concentration, some of the other things, obviously, maybe there's something wrong in terms of trying to help the kid understand that they have some learning challenges. But other than that, it might just be anxiety related issues. And as teachers and educators, if we can figure out ways to help them with the anxiety through our daily method, the way that we interact, the way that we encourage children on a regular basis, just by how we are and who we are. I'm not asking you to do things, to add another 50 things to your to-do list. This is about just being the person that you are and bringing that into your classroom even more than you are already, by doing some things that we'll talk about today. Can really help to lower their anxiety levels in that classroom. And you can be the one safe place for them. And that really can, more than anything, help them to be successful and give you more teachable time. So if you're noticing any of these signs, it may be due to anxiety, and there's some things that you can do to help them. And it really starts by establishing norms. As a basketball coach for 25 years, one of my mentors, one of the people that I look to, a great coach, Coach John Wooden from UCLA, who would start every season by teaching his freshmen, juniors, sophomores in college how to tie their shoes. And every practice, it started the same way. And I learned from that. And it was something that I built on. So one of the things is that he wanted the kids to know exactly what they were going to be doing and how to get better and how to be successful. They wanted them to know, that it wasn't a struggle for them. And so they weren't coming in with trying to figure out what was going to happen. And whether it's in transitions between subjects, or it's transitions when the bell rings, or in and out, a lot of us notice that the times when our students seem to be the most disconnected is during transition periods. And that's because there's uncertainty there. And so it's very helpful if we have norms and we establish those from day one and we're communicating them. And it's oftentimes when I'm working with teachers, the best time of the year, and it happens in most places, it probably happens in Wisconsin as well, around October, they start doing professional development around classroom behavior management. And one of the reasons why is because we all start out the year by talking about our norms and our expectations and that, and then we get, all of a sudden, we're into the grind of the year and we're into the curriculum, and we forget to talk about that stuff, and we expect that the students have learned it. And because we're not repeating it on a regular basis, it starts to break down right around that middle of October timeframe. So this is something that we want to incorporate into everything we're doing, talking about on a daily basis. If character is something we want to teach, character is something that we need to talk about 180 days out of the year. And it needs to be a part of our conversations and the words that we're using and the things that we set up for our students. It can't be a 30-minute session once a week or something that we talk about when it comes up. It needs to be a part of everything else that we're doing. And that's not, as I said, to add something to your to-do list. It's really just, it's sort of like the growth mindset versus the fixed mindset. It's changing the way that we're looking at the idea of how we teach character. Another thing we can do to lower anxiety is to really be aware of the idea of bullying. Obviously, bullying happens in the classroom, and it's something that all of us take seriously. But the online situation has has only gotten worse because of the pandemic and seeing how many people were online and them getting access to things and learning more about what they can and can't do. I mean, it's amazing that my 6 and 7-year-old, the things that they can do already without ever really being taught how to do things. It's almost like they come out knowing what's going on. But our ability to really make a conscientious effort to make bullying and non-bullying a priority within our classroom can help kids who are struggling with anxiety. So we want to put that on the forefront of what we're doing, talking about the golden rule, talking depending on the age of our kids, but we want to talk about bullying, what it looks like, how it manifests itself, and how we can help each other. Because I will tell most people that it's not a bad kid, it's a bad behavior that was learned. Those behaviors can be unlearned, and as teachers and as students and peers and classmates and teammates, we can help our classmates and our teammates unlearn those strategies if we're aware of them and we're paying attention to it. So some interesting information. Again, if you want any of these things, you can find them. If you want to look it up on your own sources, you can find it as well. But this is where at my most recent thing that I could find, it's probably changed now that Instagram is even more is being used even more often, and letting kids know what's happening and what's going on. But here's a lot of where it's happening right now, so we can be aware of that. The kids are feeling it. Some of the things that are happening as a result of cyberbullying, some ways that you can see it. Again, this is information. This is information for you, information that you can use if you're noticing any of this stuff in the classroom. I'm sorry that slide's cut off there at the end. I'm not exactly sure, but I think they start to complain of issues in terms of, again, it's the stomach ache issues and things like that. But some of the results that we might see in class, more than anything else, is losing an interest in class or a change in behavior in class. These are things that we can really begin to notice a significant change in behavior, change in activity, change in terms of who they're hanging out with or not hanging out with. And that's something that, again, I will talk about later with some of the things that you can do to find out this information as you're going forward. Some of the things you can share with your kids, let them know some tools for them and for you. Protect their passwords, keep their photos PG. It's funny that I just earlier today, my son came in and asked if he could use it's an old camera that we don't even use anymore. And I plugged it in, recharged the battery. We haven't used it in 8 years, and somehow he took a picture of himself that he shouldn't have taken. And it's just like, how did you even think that was, he's taking pictures of his ears and his nose and his mouth and everything, and then he takes a picture of something he wasn't supposed to take a picture of. So, kids aren't even trying, and sometimes they'll find themselves in situations that can be used against them. So really helping them to be aware of how information is going to be used can help them be smart and to protect themselves. The cyberbullying, what did I do here? That's interesting. Okay. I didn't mean to do that. That's a neat feature. I must have chosen something in the PowerPoint that did this for me. But helping them to think about what they're posting so that they understand that they're not putting things out there that could affect other people is really important too. Talking about the internet, obviously, it's one of the most important tools that are out there right now. And as educators, I know we have everything that we already have to do, but not talking about the internet, depending on the age of our kids, I think is doing them a disservice. Talking to them about opening unsolicited emails and also understanding that clicking on anything that they're not aware of and what it can do to them. And the other thing too is logging out of their online accounts, especially if they're using the computers at school, making sure that they're aware of that. And then obviously there are teachers who are talking about this stuff, but it doesn't hurt to think about it when they're coming back from their class, their online class, and letting them know that, maybe there was something that they could have logged out on as well. So, and the other thing too is to think about it from a school-wide perspective, raise awareness about cyberbullying and what's going on so that everybody's aware of it and they can help out. Privacy controls, this is things that we can do, and more stuff like that. Don't cyberbully others. Other things that we can do, we can lower stress in our classrooms, understanding that a lot of times the kids are stressed. And so we can lower stress and in terms of giving them breaks and trying to do what needs to be done, but also understanding that they need time to process what's going on. We can think about the creation of a growth mindset. One of the things, most important ways that we're speaking. I think the word yet is the most important word that I have worked on in terms of talking with my kids. Any time that they're saying that they can't do something, I am very, my wife and I both use the word, you can't do it yet, or they have them say, I can't do this yet. And also we try to share our mistakes and our weaknesses and blunders. When we have made a mistake, we try to acknowledge it and talk to them about it so that they know that that we're not afraid of making failures as well. And that's really helpful too. Helping the students feel safe, obviously school safety drills and things like that we can do, but figuring out ways to make them feel safe. And again, all this is about how we connect with them in the classroom, watching out for negative interactions, how we're dealing with that. I've learned that the hard way so many times. If somebody in the classroom that I'm working with, if they don't, hey, you're supposed to raise, that our rules are to raise your hand before you speak, and I do it in a way that makes the child feel somewhat uncomfortable, I look around and I notice that I've lost the rest of the class. And so it's important for me to remember that the way that I'm talking has an impact on the students. Not to say that I did anything wrong or that I'm a bad teacher. It's just to say I want to be aware of that. And if it happens, I want to talk about it so I can get everybody back on the page that I want them to be on with me. We can always talk to other teachers if we're working with students who are challenging, find out what's working for them so that we're working together with them, the administrators, the counseling team, talking to their parents if that's a resource that we have available to us. But again, for me, the most significant part of this and what we want to get to right now is the idea of the relationship. Because of the positives that come from that, the teacher-student relationship over the past 50 or 60 years has been researched by pretty much everybody who's anyone in terms of understanding what really works and in terms of behavior and also in terms of the long lasting success of the student, maybe not academically specifically, but also in the skills that they really need to succeed in and out of the classroom. And it's important that we touch on those and do that. It's not only that, it's also the peer-to-peer relationships, because it's really important that we understand how those relationships affect the students in our care as well. And so we want to be doing things to help manage and maintain those. Relationships are effective at every age. I don't know why, for some reason. Most of my work is in elementary school. When I think about middle and high school, oftentimes teachers are a little reluctant to get into these things. In terms of at least talking about them, they're excellent in developing their relationships with their students, but in terms of talking about it with their students and sometimes I think they're a little standoffish, thinking the kids already know. But we have identified that even in university, students are much more likely to be successful if they have relationships with their professors, even at that level. So it's important that we do that. How do we do it? We connect before content. And that's something that we talk to the kids about every day. This is more about you than it is about your test score. I want you to know that. How do I do that? I connect every day. I celebrate everything. I keep it light. I'm using optimistic language, and you're talking to them about how you can help. These are things that you're already doing, but things that we can really kind of build on as we're going forward. In terms of daily connection, I always talk about the first 5 and the last 5 in the classroom and how important the classroom door is. Meeting the children on the way in, saying goodbye to them on the way out, that first 5 minutes as they're entering and that last 5 minutes as they're leaving, that's your way of welcoming them in, as well as giving them back to wherever it is that they're going. And so those are important things that we can do. Things you can do in the classroom, we can stay calm. Obviously, that as a father, I mentioned earlier, that's one of the things that I'm working on, trying to stay calm when I have a situation. But it really helps to regulate my emotions, to help when my kids are having challenges. Stay attuned to what's happening. All the information that I'm sharing with you today has to do with that idea of attunement. in terms of paying attention not only to their what they're saying or what we're seeing, what's coming out of them, but also their body language and their emotional states. This is important that we have some sort of system that we're putting in place to find out as much information as we can about these children, and what they're dealing with. And that can be done very easily by some of the things that we'll talk about in just a minute. Staying present, obviously focusing on what needs to, obviously we have this list of things that we need to do, but sometimes it's more important that we just stay present in the moment and we deal with what's right in front of us, as opposed to trying to force our way through a lesson plan that we in the back of our mind know isn't going to work if we're not able to deal with what the students are dealing with. We talked about predictability earlier. This is just a repeat about that. It's important that we are predictable, especially helping students with anxiety or who come to us from trauma. And the other thing, and this is, again, as a new father, something I had to learn, is to not let my children's emotions escalate mine. To stay that calm, cool presence in the classroom and to find a way to do that is something that really, and again, by doing all the things that I'm talking about right here, we are teaching character. These are all the things that we ask our children to do. These are the things that we expect in our classroom. So every single thing that I'm talking about right now are things that are going to help you in terms of classroom management, in terms of teachable time, but they're also going to help you in terms of teaching character, because you are an example of what it actually looks like. And that's what's so important about it. Some things you can use in terms of the routines about how to help understand and get more information about students. These are some opening routines. As I said, this first 5 minutes. These are some things that you can do with students, different things, 3 good things. I also think it's important to talk to them about their mood meters and get them talking. Things that, just to find out where they are during the day, the fist of 5, asking them to find out where they are, how you doing emotionally, lifting a hand, adding these things in. These are all ways to find out, get a reading as to what's going on with our classroom. And these are all things that we can begin to incorporate without having to prep for it or do anything like that. We can just add it in. Closing routines, these are other things that we can do. And I want to point on one of them that is not on this list, but it's called the Friday survey. And it's a survey that you can give to your students on a Friday morning or a Friday before they leave. And you ask them, you can ask them 3 questions. How was your week? Which student did you think showed the most classroom spirit this week? And the third question would be something like, if you could sit next to any students next week or have lunch with any of the students next week, who would they be? And you have them turn that information in. And what that's going to show you is which students are struggling in terms of feeling good about themselves, which friendships have changed, different things like that. But it's a way for you to kind of get information about your students and find out where they're at. And these closing routines are really great during the week, but also on a Friday to find out where everybody is and to do that. Another great thing you can do is make a playlist. If you've got students working independently or in groups during that, you can make a playlist. It's a great way to connect with the students in your class, find out more about them, find out what music's interesting to them, and get them listening to some of the stuff that inspired you as well. Now I'd like to share with you a resource that I created. It's been my career for the last 20 years, as much as anything else, which was School Tools TV. And this is a resource that I'm making available to anybody that's with me today, the 4 of you that are here, or any of you, give you a free account for you to use with your classrooms. But I want to share with you this resource. This is a daily resource that I do every day throughout the school year. And now that I'm working in the form, I'm doing them pretty much all year round. But what this is a daily 1-minute video every day of the year. There's a 1-minute video. This right now that we're talking about how to have a conversation. And these videos are set up to do everything that we talked about here today. And to talk about these skills, it's in a 1-minute format. You simply go to the website, you click on the video that you want to watch. The video pops up and you share it on your whiteboard with your students. This is for the younger kids, the K2 kids. Hey y'all, welcome back to our show. We talk about things to help you learn and grow.
Shout out to Ms. Drickey's class at Winneconne Elementary in Wisconsin. Thanks for watching. Our thought of the week, why fit in when you were born to stand out? After your friend answers your question, it's your turn to talk or respond to what they said, and it's a good idea to talk about what they were talking about to keep the conversation going. You can tell them what you thought about what they said by saying something like, "That sounds really cool." Or you can ask them more questions about their day or what they've been doing here at school. Now listen closely. What does it mean to respond to someone? Thanks for watching, and remember, we're all in this together and we're here to help you through. As long as you keep trying, there is nothing we can't do. Be safe and strong, young diamonds. Have a fantastic day.
So that serves a number of purposes, Kristen. I'm glad that you think the morning meeting, yeah, it works really great. But what it does is you have a question right there. We're asking a question. So we get the kids talking in a conversation about character. We're having a conversation about character. Right? The week before, we were talking about mistakes. The week before, we were talking about how do you deal with criticism. The week before, we're talking about how you deal with fair fighting. At the beginning of the year, we're talking about following directions. We're talking about finishing strong. These are bully bites, rules, work, grit. We have the K2 version as well as the elementary version, which is 3.7, 3.8. And then we also have the high school and the middle school version. These versions are we're talking at a higher level. Obviously, the language is different, but it's a known routine. It's something that they can expect every day during the morning during the morning meeting, if you show it then, whatever it happens to be. And it has a question. They can either write about it or talk about it. And it's something for them to be able to connect with. And so it's something that you can use. I talked to you at the beginning of the presentation about the teacher self-care videos. These are the videos that I've been working on just for you. These are the ones that I've been talking about. And the most recent one is not up here yet, but here's one I can show you real quick. This is just ones I created for teachers. Hey y'all, welcome back to the Mental Health Minute, where our thought of the week is, your time is way too valuable to waste it with negative people. We're talking about how to take great care of yourself so you have more to share with the kids in your care. And this week's tip is avoid petty politics, toxic cliques, and bitter attitudes. We all have an evolutionary bias towards the negative because it helped keep us alive. But today, a lot of us worry about things that aren't even close to being life-threatening. Many of our colleagues worry and are negative about almost everything. And spending time with them will change how you view the world and the problems that you're facing. As the saying goes, you become very much like those you choose to spend time with, so choose wisely. Surround yourself with positive, caring, and hardworking colleagues, as their positivity will help keep you strong, and they're the ones that are going to be there for you when the going gets tough. Thanks for watching, and remember, we're all in this together, and we're here to help you. You've heard that. Anyway, so this is a resource for teachers. This is about the self-care stuff that we talked about earlier. And hey, y'all, welcome back to the Mental Health Minute, where our thought of the week is, your time is way too valuable to waste it watching the same video twice. But yeah, so that's the resource. And again, if you send me your email address, I will set it up for you. Right now we have a 30-day free trial, but we're thinking that what we're going to do instead is just have a Google folder with 20 of the welcome to the show kinds of videos. And so that it's real easy. You can download it, you can put it on your own computer, you can watch whatever ones you want. Watch it anytime you want. You don't have to deal with the website or anything. You just have a Google folder with these videos, and I'll make them, you'll be able to understand what's going on and so forth. But we're just going to do that. Share your email with me and I'll send that to you, and it's free for you to use. Check it out. See what you think about it. If it's a resource that you think will work with your kids, we'll set up an account for you to use the website starting in August or September when you go back, and you can try it out with your kids and see if it's something that can be helpful. But again, it goes into all of the ideas that we talked about here today. All of these things are things that we talk about. And it's a way of creating a conversation or getting a writing prompt every day. I'll do that for you. You don't have to come up with your writing prompt. I'll have it every day, and you won't have to worry about it. And that way you'll be getting this information. I mean, if you're reading these writing prompts anyway, hopefully they're going to be things that are useful for you. And so this is what we want and what I'd like to share with you as you continue to go forward. The feedback that we get from the members is very positive in terms of what it helps. And really more than anything, it improves relationships, because we're making it obvious to the students that it is more about them than it is about their test scores. And we're doing it every single day. This 1 minute video can be a part. You just add that to your routine. And again, you're telling the students, hey, this is about you. Every day we're bringing somebody in that's going to talk to you. And I'm repeating, usually the teachers are like, well, you were talking about what I talk about every day. Well, of course, these are ideas that we all talk about, but hearing it from a secondary source, hearing it from somebody that's on TV or that is a YouTuber, the kids are all excited about it and they think it's a fantastic thing. So it works. And I don't know how or why, but it seems to work. And as I showed you earlier, we've had on a yearly basis about 25,000 students a year who watch the videos, and it's pretty amazing to think that it's been going on for 20 years, and hopefully it'll be going on for another 10 or 15 years as we move forward. I also if you're interested, do professional developments, both online and in person as well. If you guys are looking for something like that, if you want to bring this kind of a presentation into your school, I'm more than happy to figure out how to make that work. Obviously, for me, travel's a bit of a challenge. And I try to set things up so that if I'm traveling, I'm doing a number of things at the same time so that I'm not wasting precious fuel in an airplane. To go traveling around. And so a lot of stuff that I'm doing right now is online, and I don't mind doing that. I'd rather be able to see you, but I think I just saw Megan for a second. That was nice. But yeah, it would be great if you're looking for professional development, please let me know. And yeah, we've got about 10 minutes left. Does anybody have any questions or comments about what we talked about? I know I went pretty quick. It's amazing how fast an hour and 15 minutes go. But again, I have the resources available. Rachel has a copy of my slideshow as well. If you want to contact her, if you don't want to contact me, contact Rachel. She'll send it to you. Hopefully she can put it into a PDF file and send it to you. And you're welcome to use it. If you want to, does the videos and resources change? Yeah, I change it every year. I rewrite, Kristen. I change, I'm doing new teacher videos every week. And for the summer now, I'm doing new videos every week for the summer. But I will I do brand new shows. I rewrite the shows and do different shows every year, depending on what's going on. Obviously, with the pandemic over the last 2 years, I was doing a lot of work with distance learning and stuff. And so the shows were in 2020 and 2021 are not applicable to what we're dealing with in the second half of 2020 or 2022 and so forth. So yeah, they're always new. We're always looking for different ways to work. I'm working more and more on social skills topics. How to make friends, how to have a conversation, really giving kids the tools that they need to connect with each other as well. So that's a big part of the process that is evolving as we go. So Rachel, thank you for your email address. Anybody else questions? All right. Again, this cool thing that I didn't know I did. Can you give me the rest of that? If you're looking for me on social media, any of your social media sites, you type in Rusty May videos and it'll come up. I think Instagram, it might be rusty.videos, but if you want to email me, just email me, send me your email address and I will set you up in terms of getting you an account going, setting you up with the Google folder with the free videos. Or just send me your email address. Tell me to contact you in August when you start thinking about this stuff again, and I will. But all I can say is thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it. For all of you that are watching the recording of this, I hope it was helpful. Thank you, all of you, for all you're doing for the kids in your care. You are the boots on the ground. You are changing the future with everything you do every day. Thank you very much. For all you're doing, and thank you for allowing me to be here today and to talk with you. Rachel, I appreciate your help. If anybody has any questions, please email me. Thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of the conference, and I'll talk to you soon. Take care.